So again, good afternoon. We're going to continue working with slope of a line. Remember, slope is one of these words that implies steepness. Other words that would apply steepness is like if you talk about grade on a hill, the hillside. If you've ever been in the mountains where it talks about grade, the grade of the hill, that also implies a steepness. Pitch of a roof, so pitch could be synonymous with steepness. For us, we talk about steepness of a line, we're going to use the word slope for that. We're not going to use pitch of the line or grade of the line. We're going to use the word slope. There's a lot of synonyms for slope out there. Another one we mentioned was like constant change has this concept of slope in it. So slope, again, we're going to use the letter M to denote slope in algebra. It's going to again describe the steepness of a line. We also mentioned that slope is going to be the change in y values over the change in x values. Commonly that's referred to as rise over run. We've talked about positive slope. It has this increasing concept, which we used a hiker for that. Negative slope has more of this downward motion or a decreasing direction. That's a negative slope. Use a skier for that. Zero slope has more of this horizontal look to it. So again, we call this a horizontal line. So it's going to be parallel to the x-axis. It's not going to intersect the x-axis. It's going to run side by side alongside the x-axis. So it's going to be considered parallel. Let's look at another example. Now we have what we call a vertical line. Let me put that somewhere else. So this line would be considered a vertical line. I'm going to put that over here. Notice the vertical line is actually going to be parallel to the y-axis. Now, again, our mission is to talk about the slope of the line. And the slope of the line, again, is this concept of change in y with change in x. So let's say the change in y goes from -5 all the way up to a 4. So it's like up 5, up 4 more. That's a change of 9. So my slope is going to be this, we'll put that over here, 9 over. And your change in x, notice that there's no left or right movement. So the change in x, there isn't any. It's just a change in y. So it's going to be a 9 over 0. 9 over 0, keep in mind, is not possible. We write this as undefined. So 9 divided by 0 is undefined because there's no number you can multiply by 0 by to get 9. Because you remember, when you multiply by 0, the answer is always 0. So you can't multiply by 0 to get 9 because when you multiply by 0, you get 0. So this is not defined. So when we see a vertical line like this super steepness, if you will, like a cliff, this has what we call a no slope, undefined slope. So we may see the word no slope, or we may see the words undefined slope. Those are the two common ways we describe a vertical line. Notice how, again, your x values are the same here. That's going to raise some type of suspicion when those values are the same. In this case here, it plays out to be a no slope. Again, if you put that into a calculator, 9 divided by 0, you'll see that your calculator will give you some type of error. That's that signal that it can't be answered. There's not a number that goes with that. Now, if I'm using the formula, if I call this 0.1, 3, -5, and 3, 4, if I call that 0.2, so I have x1, y1, 0.1, x2, y2, that's 0.2. I could then use my slope formula. So my slope formula says take the change in the y's, in other words, y2 minus y1. So it's 4, take away -5. And on the x's, I got to subtract the x's, so that's going to be 3 minus 3. So I end up with 4 plus 9 over 0. I'm sorry, 4 plus 5. So negative and a negative, they make that the opposite. The -5 makes a positive 5 there. So I have 4 and a 5, and that makes a 9 over 0. And as we said, that's going to be undefined, which we use also the word no slope. So there's no number that goes with that. Now remember, zero slope has a number. 0 is a number, but here I cannot assign a numerical value to that. So there's no number that can represent an undefined slope. That's why I use the word undefined. It cannot be identified with a number. So hopefully that helps a little bit. So those are our different types of slopes. Then we have what we call a positive slope, a negative slope, a zero slope, and then we have what we refer to as an undefined slope. And those are your main characteristics of slope. So we'll move on forward through that. Stay tuned for more.